Hello and welcome to the Health Odyssey podcast, episode 141. Now we are joined today by a very special guest who we rescheduled. I've mentioned her a few times over the last month, I think. We've rescheduled the podcast, but we are finally joined by this guest who I will introduce you to in a minute. But first of all, I'll check in with the usual hosts and see how they are getting on. Mr. Peter Land in Bath, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. I'm thinking about building an ark, because honestly, it's biblical rain this year, isn't it? So I'm going to do that. And
you've got the beard now.
I've got the beard, yeah. So now I just need the boat because we've got the water. So I might as well do that.
I would suggest that maybe you need the animals as well because you've only got a dog.
Well, I've got one. That'll do, wouldn't it? You know. It'll just be a very spacious ark, wouldn't it?
I don't think it will be told to children for many hundreds of years that Peter went on an ark with a dog.
No, but it'll be, the thinking behind it will be sick of getting wet underpants from just getting like literally soaked through like day after day after day. But there you go. We'll leave it there.
I think about the last 3 or 4 podcasts we've heard about your wet underpants, haven't we?
Honestly, it's an ongoing thing. The radiators are just covered in them around here.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Paul Bassett in Putney in London, how are you doing?
Good. I'm not in my studio, but I've got a nice warm studio that I don't get rained on. Not to boast. No.
You've got a pull-up bar that doesn't shake.
Air conditioning. Yeah. No, it's no, fine. I'm good. Again here it's just I don't know when summer or spring or anything that has any sunshine is going to happen. I mean, we're almost in May now when we're recording this, and I'm still wearing gloves on my bike.
It'll warm up soon, I'm sure. Anyway, nice segment.
Doesn't have these problems being in Dallas.
I was going to say our guest is in. She's just had to turn off a fan because it was just it's so warm. It's so warm. So our guest is in Dallas, Texas, and our guest today is Coach Karen Smith. How are you doing, Karen?
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate you guys rescheduling as much as we've had to, and hopefully today with this voice, like we wouldn't have to, and like let's just make it happen. But I'm super happy to be here with you guys. Excellent.
Yeah, Karen sort of emailed just a couple of hours ago and said she's had some sort of laryngitis going on. So the voice this is not her normal speaking voice. It's slightly more husky than normal, but we decided to go with it because she's not in pain. So we decided to go with it this time. Coach Karen on Instagram is a Master Certified Strongfirst Instructor. She's someone that I've followed for a long time. I know a lot of people who I know have followed her. She's been over to the UK, I think on a number of occasions teaching. She's coming over to Paris soon to teach. And like we said, is based in Dallas, Texas. So we're really, really grateful to have Karen with us. It's the morning for her. It's kind of like mid-afternoon for us. So Karen, I mean, to begin with, I mean, lots of people will follow you and will already be aware of you through social media, but lots of people won't. I mean, a lot of the people who listen to the podcast are kind of in their 40s, their 50s. They're people who are interested in living a long, strong, energetic life and kind of making their life better through lifestyle, exercise, training, and living a more healthy lifestyle, really. So can you just kind of maybe start by telling us a bit about yourself, your background, how you got involved in training, your training history, and then your kind of career, I suppose. And I know you've been involved in training for a long time, so it's a big question, but we can kind of dip in with questions on the way, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. I would love to. It is a long story, but I'm going to try to put it in the shortest way possible for you. So, athlete as a child. So I did gymnastics, cheerleading, a little bit of track, wasn't great at it. I'm not a runner. We still have a joke nowadays that if I'm running anywhere, I just need to be faster than one person, right? Outrun a bear, just one person to be faster than. So I run every now and then, but I prefer to lift heavy things and just stay strong. So got into training, actually certified in training about 25 years ago. And originally it was just growing as a personal trainer and kind of the basics of, you know, the old style of, well, if you're kicking someone's butt, then you're a good trainer, right? Like, oh, I'm going to make them sore, or I'm going to, you know, just go through. I think a lot of it was going through the motions and learning, like so many new trainers, and then really stuck with it for a while, and then found out about Pavel. And that kind of just changed my whole mindset on the way that I train, the way that I looked at training. I stopped being that woman that was so fearful of lifting heavy because I was going to get bulky or I was going to look like a man, right? That doesn't happen unless you do a lot of other things to make that happen. But that was my fear for a long time. So when I came across somebody who was training kettlebells, and I heard about at the time it was the RKC, I went to that certification, and I tell everyone all the time, it was like the heavens open. I was like, here's my people. I found where I'm supposed to be. And I just never really looked back from there. It was like, I just went to any workshop that I could go to. I traveled all over the world. Like if Pavel was teaching something or other people that I had met through him, I was like, I'm there, and opened a gym. And then all my students started going to everything. They saw my passion for it. And so they started tagging along. And so it was like, here's Karen and her entourage of people that would go to all of the workshops, no matter where Pavel was at. And I guess from that, it just kind of put me in that space where I was in the right place at the right time. And he promoted me to be a team leader at the time for the RKC. And then from there, I went from team leader, senior. And then when the switch happened over to Strongfirst, then I switched from a senior instructor to a master instructor. So basically found the kettlebell and the certification. I think we went to my first cert in 2008. And just from there, it just anything and everything I could go to get certified. And so I started teaching as a team leader in 2010 for him. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much been my main thing since then. I'm still doing it. I'm super passionate about it. Love traveling the world. I love that COVID isn't keeping me from traveling the world anymore. And I'm back to just kind of seeing a ton of people and sharing my passion for making people stronger. And like we talked about earlier, like redefining what strong is as a woman, and as a woman who's aging, like what does that look like? And outside of Strongfirst,
Karen, can I just stop you for a second and touch on that? Because a lot of the people that I train are women in their 50s and progressing, you know, 50s and 60s, you know, women who are maybe, I've had my gym for sort of 16 years. So some of them would have started, you know, probably in their early 40s, but now they're kind of like mid 50s, they're moving on. And that whole redefining strong and redefining strength for women, can we sort of touch on that? And because you meant that was really interesting how you said what redefining strong, you know, for women as women get older. I think that's really like an important kind of maybe a little path we can take for a minute, if that's okay.
Absolutely. So the way that I look at that, when I was younger, like I said, I went through the fear of getting bulky, and I was afraid to do things, and I was a cardio queen. I just wanted to be on those machines for hours, and I was afraid of being strong or looking too strong. And when I came into the world of Strongfirst, and I changed my mindset, and I realized the way to train differently, right? So I lifted heavy, and I did the Iron Maiden, and I did all of those things to get really strong. And I still like to train that way, still 100% believe in that. But like a lot of your students, I mean, we're all aging, right? Like this is my year, and I hate to say this, put this out there to the world, but I will be 50 this year. And it's a weird thing to think about. Like, I don't feel like that is where I'm at. But in reality, it is. That's the birthday that's coming up. So what I learned is early on in my training, I looked at women that I felt were sabotaging themselves, like the older women. So when I was younger, right? I'm in my 30s, I'm training all these older women, and I felt like they just weren't putting in the work. And so now I feel like I can put this huge apology out to the world, because in my 40s, I found out some medical stuff that I needed to have done, which then caused me to have a full hysterectomy, and it changed everything about my body and hormones. And I looked at, sorry about that. I had to start looking at the body differently, because I was like, here's how I train, here's how I eat. I know all these things to do, but they're not working. They're just not working anymore. So it kind of had like this public letter to all of those people that I thought were just being lazy or sabotaging or weren't really filling out their food logs properly. And, they just kept complaining like, I'm doing all these things and nothing's working. So through my own journey of having surgery, seeing my body change drastically, I had to start seeing specialists. I had to start thinking more about hormones. And by no means am I a hormone specialist at all. But what I have learned is that it's not as easy as calories in, calories out as you're an aging female. It's just not. So through that journey, now what I do with that age group, if someone comes to me and they're like struggling and they're like, nothing's working. First thing I have them do is go get a hormone panel. Like, go look and see what's going on with your hormones, because otherwise we're spinning our wheels. Like, I can get you strong, even if your hormones are off, but that doesn't mean that's going to get you the body looking the way that you want it to. Because as we age and we don't have those hormones, we're going to hold on to more body fat. We're going to be softer. And it's a struggle. I mean, it's especially in this industry, right? It's still male dominated, right? So it's females in an industry that is very male dominated. And then you get to that age where your body changes and you want to look a certain way and you want to move a certain way. So the redefining strong to me is, for these females, is looking at things at a bigger picture, looking at longevity, looking at recovery and training. So yes, you still want to be strong, but it takes our bodies longer to recover than it did in the past. So you have to have more recovery time. And to also get into redefining strong is also a strong mindset. Like, if you're always looking, and social media is the worst for this, and I'm trying to teach my daughter this from an early age, social media allows you or forces us to look at things and basically pick things apart. Like, it puts you in this perfect, like, oh, everybody over here is doing this perfect thing, when really we know that's just the show reel, right? No one is perfect. Or we're seeing these bodies where everybody just wants to be half dressed and show off. And if I angle in a certain way in the camera and do something, well, then I'm going to get the likes and the following. But that following doesn't mean loyalty to what you're doing as a coach, as someone who's actually hiring you. Yeah, you might have a huge following and you might look a certain way, but can you get them to understand smart training, longevity, what's going to keep me healthy and strong, right? So what is strong? Strong is relative, but it's not just physically strong, it's mentally strong, it's emotionally strong. And then that can carry on to other things in your life.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there kind of getting a hormone panel done, and we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago that the three of us were chatting that in America, it's we listen to. I mean, I think we all listen to lots of sort of American podcasters and YouTubers and things, and we kind of research and read books and things, and a lot of I don't know. I think America's always kind of a certain, with everything good and bad, is kind of is probably 5 years in advance of what we are over in the UK, so we were talking about hormone panels like for men and things like that, because I think in this country, so I know you have a different healthcare system obviously where you are, and everyone's kind of on well, you kind of you pay, don't you get what you pay for, and the more money you've got, the better care you get in terms of insurance and things. But is getting like a hormone panel for women or for men, for anyone in the States, is that kind of a fairly straightforward? Is that like just a transaction that happens that you just go, or you need to get referred for it, or how does that work?
It's really dependent on the insurance that you have and the doctor. I mean, when I was going through my journey of having surgery, and there were things I just didn't research enough, right? They're like, hey, you need this surgery because you're at high risk for cancer. So it was an elective surgery. So by going through that process and then not having hormones, I went through all different doctors, all different specialists, spent a lot of money, because female hormones in the US is not covered by insurance. So to get a hormone panel and to get a full panel where they're really looking at everything, you have to end up going to a specialist, and you're going to spend a lot of money. It's unfortunate because there's still a lot of doctors that feel like women don't need hormones. And so it's a battle.
HRT replacements. So
Yeah.
the replacement, right. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a battle. And I'm still back and forth with different doctors because some are like, oh, you should only have testosterone and that will make you feel good. Or you should only have progesterone and estrogen, and women don't need testosterone. And it just really is dependent on who you go to. I even had one doctor, and obviously I only saw him once. He actually told me, because I was telling him, look, I'm a coach, I know how to eat, I know how to train, but my body's not responding to this anymore. It doesn't matter. I can be in a huge deficit and nothing's changing. And he flat out looked at me and said, well, it really drives me crazy when women want to blame weight gain on a surgery. I'm going to give you, all you need is testosterone and then you can be on your way. And I'm like, okay, well, we're done here.
I hope you stood up and walked out.
I did. Well, I got the shot first because I needed that. I'm like, okay, well, you give me the part that you're going to give me. And then the next day I went to someone else and I went to a specialist.
Wow.
So then I had to pay again and work through that process. So that's the hard part, is when you're meeting all of these battles in the medical field because they just want to tell you it's inevitable, right? When I found out that I needed the hormones, it wasn't, yes, my body had changed and that was uncomfortable, but it became more than that. It wasn't just weight gain or more body fat. It was my joints started to hurt. I couldn't straighten my arms out the same way. I couldn't stand up and straighten my legs out without looking like I was 80. And I was like, this is my job. This is my livelihood. So I started doing the research and I kept running into roadblocks. I had one doctor that was like, well, if it hurts to squat, don't squat. Well, that's not how you're going to have a life, like a long, strong journey in life, is to just give up anything that causes you pain. So I kept seeing more people. He was like, oh, just stretch more. And I was like, well, clearly you haven't gotten to know me as your patient, because I'm hypermobile. It's not just about stretching for me. Like I have the mobility. And then when I got the right hormones, all of that pain in my joints went away and I started functioning well again. And I could do pistols again and one-arm push-ups again. So all of those things we're able to do, but we also need to know what those barriers are. And without those, you might be hitting a roadblock as you get older.
It really feels like we're kind of at this time of history. We're maybe at a bit of a crossroads, because we've spoke to lots of guests in the last 6 months, probably, about, females with menopause and HRT and even, with men with testosterone and hormones. And I think that's going to be kind of the next sort of, I suppose, frontier that we're going to, that in maybe 30 years time, we'll kind of look back and everyone will, the medical providers will have kind of got this more sorted out, or we'll have more understanding of it. And because I think that we are getting to that stage now where it's lots of people are talking about it. And to begin with, it's kind of on the fringe, but now it's becoming more mainstream, and more people are talking about it in mainstream media and things as well. So we have the same issues over here. We've spoke to guests over here who are females in their, maybe in their 50s, about hormone replacement therapy and things, and saying, because even I think I may be wrong, but on the NHS, it wasn't covered on the NHS over here when we spoke to people, and you had to go to really get taken seriously and to get proper diagnosis and proper prescriptions. People were needing to go to special private clinics, specifically for women's health and things like that. But so I think
it can be very frustrating because you're having to shell out so much money for something that the doctors keep just telling you they're not. And insurance, I hope over time insurance is going to cover it, because I had my surgery in 2016. So for all this time now, I've still been playing the game of trying to figure it out. Like where's the right hormone level for me to stay here versus, everything to be kind of up and down. And at that time, I spent thousands and thousands of dollars just to get where my body can feel good and then still keep performing well, because I want to keep performing as long as I can. I've always been that person I want to walk the walk, I don't want to just talk it and teach it and talk about it. I want to actually be able to show that I can still do all of these things. And that's the part that I'm trying to show other people, like redefining strong is not just your body and aesthetics, right? It's it's the mind, it's the emotional aspect. It's like, how do you handle the aging process and do the recovery to keep yourself feeling young, looking younger, and moving well into your older years.
How do you differentiate? So when you've got a client who is struggling to lose weight, and they do fall within the demographic that you've just been referring to, how long do you, at what point do you say, okay, now we need hormonal intervention? What would give you the triggers that perhaps the basics were covered? I mean, how do you have like a timeline, like, so this person should be losing X number of pounds in the next 3 months, 6 months, or do you ever, because it's quite easy to, I mean, my skill set is not hormones. So I would be thinking, are they applying the principles? How do you, because you obviously achieved quite a lot, you're given your position within the SFG, within Strongfirst, you're covering all those bases and you're probably implementing them extremely well. Whereas our clients are kind of like, they're like novice musicians. They're just banging out, basic tunes at first. When does it suddenly become a hormone issue for you?
Well, for me, here's the thing, is I'm kind of lucky, and I call it luck because like I said, being in the right place, being in Strongfirst, people come to me normally for strength. So I don't get a ton of clients at this stage of the game where I'm having to worry about meal plans. They're like, hey, I want to do a 1-arm push-up. Hey, I want to go to the SFG. I want a deadlift. I want to pull up. So we can go that route and that's fine. But if they come to me and they're like, I'm unhappy with my body, I need to lose some body fat. And it's rare that happens now, only because of the niche that I've, kind of where I'm at. But normally if they come to me and they're like, I've been struggling and I've been doing, and they lay out all the things that they've been doing. And before we even start, I say, this is my recommendation. Go get blood panel, right? See what's going on in your hormones first. So that when you come to me, we don't spend 1, 2, 3 months spinning our wheels, right? Like, hey, I'm doing all the things. And to make sure that they're eating properly, like if they're doing all the things and nothing's changing, almost always there's something with the hormones. That's what I found. And because I'm not a specialist in hormones, I just recommend the hormone panel, let them and their doctor talk about what's going on. I do have some other people that I can refer out to that I know specialize in hormones that are trainers. So when that comes to me, that's what I try to do it right off the bat. Like, let's just nip it. Like, don't pay me for 4 months and then not see results, because that's going to be, they're my billboard. And if they're frustrated and nothing's changing other than they might be getting a little bit stronger, they're going to, until they see that the hormones off, they're going to just think that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. So right away, like if you're struggling, nothing's working, and you're telling me that, and you truly are doing the work, I'm going to have you go right away.
You recommend that to men as well, or is it mainly women that are approaching you?
I mean, I haven't had to really train, like I said, because that's not who's really coming to me at this point in my career. But I would say if you have men that are very overweight and struggling and nothing's working, because I mean, obviously men on average lose faster than women, right? Like you guys have higher testosterone levels naturally. So if they're still hitting that wall and nothing's working, then why not? I mean, definitely it could help for sure.
Can I ask, Karen, in terms of, I know I first became aware of you around the kind of the SFB and the body weight training course that Strongfirst do. And was that something that obviously when Strongfirst became an entity and became a thing, and you moved over and you became a master instructor, was there any equivalence of the SFB before, or was that something that was created that was kind of new? And then because you to my understanding, you've been involved in the SFB for a long time, and you were kind of the chief person teaching it. And so
Right.
were you involved in the kind of creation of it and the teaching of it and the development of it and all of that sort of thing for Strongfirst?
So before Strongfirst, we did have, with the RKC, we had one, maybe 2 bodyweight courses. It was an SBS, specialist of bodyweight strength or something like that, I think is what the original was. And during that time, before the split, Pavel had reached out to me, and he knew my background in gymnastics and stuff like that. So he was like, hey, would you want to teach our body weight cert? And I was like, sure. What do I have to do? And he's like, a 1-arm push-up. And have you guys met Pavel in person?
Yeah, we met him. Was it like 2018 or something, or
something like that? Yeah,
he was over here. Yeah, he came over to do Strong Endurance, I think, didn't he? And we were there at Strong Endurance. Yeah.
So if you met him in person, you know that he has a great sense of humor, and but he's also at times a man of very few words. So I was like, well, what do I? Of course, I'd love to teach it. Like, what do I need to do? And he said, a 1-arm push-up. And I was like, cool. How? And his words were, figure it out. So at that time, there was no manual, right? We were going to go into this workshop. And I think the workshop, we even wrote the manual, like part of the manual while we were there, the people that went, because there was a lot of leadership that had gone to that event. And it was shortly after I had done the Iron Maiden. So I was already fairly strong.
Just before you go on, Karen, can you just explain just to the listeners, just the Iron Maiden, just to remind people what it is? Because we may have mentioned it on the podcast before, but many people might not know what it is.
Sure. So the Iron Maiden is the female version of the Beast Tamer, Beast Tamer is where men are going to do a pull-up, a pistol, and a press with a 20 and 48 kilo. And then females would do that with a 24 kilo. So at the time, it wasn't even called the Iron Maiden when I started training for it. But in March, I think it was March of 2012, I did the Iron Maiden. And then I think it was like June that he was like, hey, do you want to do this thing? Sure. Okay. So at the time I had a gym, and it became everyone's goal. I'm like, everyone is going to try to do this, because I needed the research of not only getting me there as somebody who was already fairly strong as a female, but how do I get anyone there, right? Any age, any fitness level, to be able to do a 1-arm push-up and a 1-arm, 1 leg. So we started developing progressions. Everyone in my gym at the time would work on it. We started at the wall, and then we made our way down. And at that time, I think it took me 4 months. I think I went to, July, August, September. It was like September, October. So 3.5, 4 months to go to that first event and test out. So I passed the test that weekend. And then, of course, it just kind of grew. And I started really teaching that event, because there were less and less people that were able to teach it. And it was so new. And then from there, because I kind of went that division and tried to start growing it, that I became the chief of bodyweight at that time. We don't run it as chiefs of each different modality now. It went from chief of all the modalities to director of education, which is where Brett's at. Because Brett was the chief of kettlebells, Doc Hartle of barbell, and then me of bodyweight. So the goal was just to have it more known and keep growing that. And we have them. There's so many options for body weight now, and so many progressions. And now we test more things. Back then, there was only one test, and it was 1-arm push-up for females, 1-arm, 1 leg for men on one side. That was the strength test. And so now we do testing of pull-ups and pistols for the technique test, and then still do the push-up.
Excellent. And you still teach SFB? What will you be teaching when you come over to Paris in a few months' time?
It will be the body weight.
Yeah,
SFB. So I teach the level 1, the level 2, and body weight. I teach probably more body weight than anything else, again, because there's fewer people who can teach it. Like, I think you said John's coming to you guys.
Yeah.
So John Ingham, myself, Fabio, and Pavel Masek.
Yes. Yeah.
I think Peter Lactose too. So there's like 5 of us that teach the body weight at this time.
Yeah, Peter Lactos did. I did my HKC in about 2010, I think, with him. Yeah. And and we've had Pavel Macek as well. I've met him. I think he was at Strong Endurance, wasn't he, Pete?
Yes.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So no, that's great.
He was also I think they were both at FMS.
With Brett.
Brett was there, and Tommy Blom, and everyone was there.
Foundational strength, wasn't it? I think foundational strength. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I love all of those guys. Like, it's it's such a good. I call them my strength family. It's like we're just bonded by Strongfirst. And Pablo Masek had come over. Well, I had gone to Prague and taught in his gym some workshops, and then we went over to Poland, and he shadowed when I taught the SFB in Poland, so that he could then start teaching it. So now he's, which came in really handy because that had happened actually right before COVID. So it allowed him to be able to do stuff over there when I couldn't get over there. So it worked out really well. He's a great guy, great instructor.
Yeah, no, he is. And you before we started recording, you were kind of telling us a little bit about something that you're working on at the moment. That's training sort of adaptive athletes and kind of people with disabilities and things like that. Can you kind of tell us sort of what you're doing with that?
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's really new to me. I found them in January. There was a young girl who had been in an accident, and she was a competitive cheerleader at the same place that my daughter was. And in her accident, it was a cheer accident. I can't remember if she was stunting or doing a gymnastics, but either way, she fell and paralyzed herself. Like she broke her neck. And I started to kind of watch her journey of how they thought that she wasn't going to be able to ever, really move again. And she ended up on her social media at this place called Adaptive Training Foundation. It's a nonprofit, which I didn't know at the time that that's what it was. I just kept watching her, and my daughter had gone off to college. I'm learning this whole new empty nester, being at home by myself. And I work from home and then teach from home. And so it's kind of gotten really kind of like quiet. And I was like, I need something else, right? Like I want to keep doing all the things that I love and coaching everyone and doing the certs. But when I'm not doing that, I need some interaction. So I reached out to them and I was like, hey, are you guys hiring? I'd love to see, if there's an opportunity for me to work with you guys. And I went over there, and at that time when I met with them, found out they were nonprofit. So the majority of what goes on there is volunteer based, but I loved it. I fell in love with it. My daughter saw how happy I was being there. She came in for spring break, shared the whole week helping and volunteering. And now I'm actually doing some work there, not just volunteering. So what that is, if people are not aware of what an adaptive athlete is, the athletes that come to this nonprofit, it's fully paid for them. They come in and they do, it's called Redefine, and then they do a redeploy trip. So it's 9 weeks of training. They come in 3 times a week. And the adaptive athlete means they've had some sort of injury, right? They're readapting to life as in this new body. They're either spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, have had an amputation, paralyzed, and we're working with getting them to see how strong they can be and what they can do. And I mean, I'm on the second class. So I went through the first full 10 weeks with the first class. There were 10 athletes. That first group were former military or law enforcement. This one has a mix. There's a lot of civilians in this group, all have a different adaptation. And it's learning to do the same type of training, but being able to adapt it to whatever their needs are. Are they learning to just get out of their wheelchair and try to learn to walk again? Are they learning how to use their new prosthetic leg or arm? All of those things. Like there's a gentleman that I worked with yesterday, and it's so amazing. I can't wait to kind of show his journey on my social media over the next 9 weeks. But basically, he was in a car accident, and when he got to the hospital, the doctors basically said that he was not going to be able to function again. Like he would live in this hospital bed, and even had the nerve to say, like, hey, you're going to need a trach. You're not going to be able to talk. You're not going to be able to walk. Like kind of saying, like, do you want to live this life? And if you don't, like, we'll just let the family know that it's probably good to just kind of take you off support. Luckily, they didn't. He didn't want that. He ended up being in a bed for 9 months, ended up getting terrible bed sores, like massive bed sores. But they just thought that he was never going to be able to function again. And yesterday, okay, so we're in week 2 with this class. So that is would have been his 6th training session. He was up out of the wheelchair. They help him get up. He walked 95 steps across the floor, slow, but like learning to balance, learning to walk. I mean, it's truly amazing. And then we got him connected into a machine squat machine where, it doesn't have the 100% access to like hands and gripping and movement or mobility, which is what I'm working with them a lot on. But they strapped him into where he could kind of hook bands into the arms and was able to squat. And so it's like teaching him, like, yes, you can walk. Yes, you can build up the strength and get to the place where you can get yourself up in and out of your wheelchair again. So there's so many people that have been told that they're never going to walk again, and they're doing things. And if nothing else, maybe they won't walk again, some of them, but teaching them to crawl, teaching them to build strength in their core, instead of just thinking like, you're done, like you're injured and you're incapable. It's so empowering to see what this foundation is doing that I'm like, I want to be there any moment that I'm not training my clients online, and any moment that I'm not teaching certifications. It's just truly inspirational.
Yeah, I saw on your social media this, the gym, because it's obviously a facility, isn't it? That's there. And I was going to kind of ask you, oh, what's that? Because I hadn't seen, because it's only recently that I've seen that on your Instagram and things. So I knew you were doing something, training differently. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And
it's really amazing.
Yeah. And it's like you say, some people, we speak about this quite a lot with different guests we've had on, but people get given either a medical diagnosis or something. It could be, type 2 diabetes. It could be, some kind of cancer or something. They're given a diagnosis and they're almost, can give up, and especially if they're told basically to give up, like some of these people that you're talking about are told, look, you'll never walk again, you'll never be able to do this again. And it's just people maybe accepting that diagnosis. And like you say, not everyone will be able to have a full recovery, and they might not be able to walk again, but you can certainly improve the quality of life for these people.
And there's more in this program, and that's why I recommend, if anyone wants to check it out, the foundation website, the donations are huge, right? Like that helps these people go through these programs. Otherwise, they're going to come into these same insurance and doctors that just say, oh, that hurts, don't do it. Or, oh, you're going to be limited to a chair. The last athlete that I had probably was more capable in the gym than fully functioning, that people that are not injured, right? So that last athlete that my main athlete was injured in the military, and it caused him to go blind. And the things that he could do in the gym would just blow people away. Like it was, and it's a huge, not just being physically strong, but being mentally strong and positive in your mindset. So there's that aspect too. So not only do they come into this organization and get the physical training, they go in and they talk and they get to build the community, and they speak about what their fears are, what things are holding them back, where they want to go, right? It's like, we want you to see that you are capable, and this whole community is here for you to feel like, realize that there's people that feel just like you, that move just like you, and that you can be better and you can be stronger, and you continue to be an inspiration to everyone else that sees you that might at some point end up where you're at, because we never know when an accident's going to happen.
Yeah. And do you find that you said the first sort of wave that you did, the first course that you did was mainly, or was exclusively, kind of former military and law enforcement and things like that, and now it's a mix of both? How does that kind of dynamic work? If you've got, I think you said you've maybe got 10 people in a cohort, as it were, moving through, if you've got a mix of military, law enforcement, regular civilians, does everyone, because they obviously, people from like more of a military background and more of a law enforcement background might be slightly different personality and slightly different. They're used to training, they're used to being pushed and things. Right. Does everyone support each other? Do they work as a group as well?
Yeah, during their training, there's team events that they have to do together. But also for the military ones, some of those team events, those bonding events are going to be like, maybe they're going to go shooting, or maybe they're going to go, there are other things. There's different sports. So the end of the last group, by the end of the 10 weeks, they all went skiing and snowboarding together. So there's team events to make them bond. But also what I found, and I have a lot of experience with military because my ex-husband was military. So I've kind of been around that, and my family's police officers. So it was a good place for me to start with them and come in, because I understood kind of what they've been through, at least as a family side of it. And, but what we had to do with them is a little bit different. Is they're used to going hard, right? But sometimes when you've been in something and you're used to going hard, you still want to push that hard, and maybe you push too hard, right? In order to not have to think about the things that you've dealt with, I'll just stay busy. I'll just work out all the time. I'll just go and not have to think. So for that group, get them to bond, get them to slow down, right? And go, okay, yes, you're going to do these workouts, but let's talk about recovery. Let's build into that aspect of those recovery days. What does it mean to recover and truly slow down and make sure that your body is functioning the best for the active days and the training days, and getting people to move properly. I mean, think about, I don't know how much you guys are familiar with military, but a lot of military, they're used to wearing backpacks, right? Or rucking. So they're already more rounded shoulders, hunched back, tightening in the pecs. So the big thing that I worked on with that group from the start is building back good posture, like how to get those things loosened up and spend time doing the things that we don't like to do, right? We want to do the things that are like cool and heavy and sexy. And sometimes you have to slow down and you have to do the movements and the mobility and those things that you don't like to do. So that's kind of where I'm working with people there and trying to like pull that to them, because they know how to push hard, right? All the trainers there know how to push people hard, and you kind of have to push to that mental side. It's a little bit different type of training than what I would do in Strongfirst, but it's inspiring, it's rewarding, and I would recommend anyone, if they ever get the opportunity, to kind of be around that. And it also makes you super creative in your training, because how can you train this way but then modify it for whatever that adaptation is?
There was an initiative in the UK. I'm just trying to think how long ago it would have been. It would have been about 17 or 18 years ago, called the Inclusive Fitness Initiative. And it was kind of like a government thing where they were trying to increase the levels of participation in sport and exercise and gym training for people with disabilities, because the kind of take up of exercise just with the general population is very, very low anyway. But within the kind of community of people with disabilities, it was even lower, hardly, the percentage of people involved in exercise was so low. And they did some courses, and we at the gym I used to work at, I used to manage a gym, and we got some funding to get in more sort of inclusive equipment. And it was everything. It was people, like you say, with hearing impairments, visual kind of impairments, and then, physical impairments, and maybe people who had strokes, people who, amputees. And like you say, it was so interesting because it really made you totally think differently around exercises, and people maybe couldn't grip pulleys on cables. So you'd almost have to, there was straps that you'd kind of help them, link onto things. And maybe you really had to think about getting on and off of different bits of equipment, or getting on and off of the floor. And it is, like you say, and that's probably a reason why I like training kind of quite a few people I train maybe in their 70s and things, because training older people, when you've got like a 30-year-old fit person with no issues at all, it's quite easy, isn't it, to give them training things. Yeah. But when you've got someone that you really have to think, it kind of makes it more interesting, I find, for myself. It's that sounds like a really, really rewarding use of your time now. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. And you know what, I found them at a time where really, like I said, I'd become an empty nester. I was home by myself, and I also had a shoulder injury, and I was kind of down on myself. I was like, oh, I can't do my things right now that I'm used to doing. And so I had to remind myself to, you're going to have those times in your life. And by going there, it helped me focus on, how can I be down on myself? How can I be down that I have a shoulder that maybe isn't as strong? My arm's not doing what I want it to do and need it to do. But how can I be mad? Like I still have my arm. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it just kind of, once you're in that setting and you see how amazing people can be and come back from all of these things they've experienced in life, it just shows you that the things that we want to think are a big deal or a problem or, a inconvenience are nothing in the grand scheme of things. Like it's really not as big a deal as we want to make it.
I saw a post yesterday or the day before, and it was a guy who lost both his legs in, I think he was in the military, or he'd been in the military. And he said, people ask him, how can you be so positive when you've lost your legs? And he's like, how can you be so negative when you've got both of yours? And it was like, there you go. Straight back at you. So
that's exactly how, I mean, any of this that you watch, and I hope I can bring more to this to anyone who's seeing my social media. There is a gentleman in the gym, and it may be the same guy. He's a trainer there now, lost both legs. And it was just a freak accident. Like he was showing me and this other gentleman the other day where he would normally be standing and having his body outside of the, I don't know, a tank or whatever I don't know exactly what he was in, where the rocket or whatever came through with the explosion, it would have completely missed him. But something was going on that day where he had to sit down in the seat and the angle of where his legs were and reaching across to do whatever he needed to do on the computer, it came in and it right at the angle that took his legs out. And to see what he's doing now, and he's actually, I'll have to find it and put it on my social media again. But he went and did, I think, the incline. I don't know if this is the exact, like, I'm trying to remember, but the incline is in Denver and it's like 2,200 steps or 2,000, I don't know exact. And climbed that with his body and arms with no legs and it took a while, but like to see him do it, it was amazing. And I just spoke with him yesterday, and there's things where he's working on that we're going to be working on some mobility for him, where he's wanting to do muscle ups, and he's super strong and amazing. I mean, if you saw the things that he's doing in with the athletes and himself, he's a CrossFit coach and pushes people and just gets amazing results. And it's incredible.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Well, definitely we'll, if you can at the end, when we wrap up, we'll kind of get maybe the we'll share your social media and things and the name of that gym that you're working at and everything else, and people can check that out, because that sounds fantastic. In terms of yourself, Karen, now you said you're working largely from home now. Apart from this work that you're doing, are you doing a lot of online stuff now? Do you do a lot of online coaching, or do you have people come to you and train with you in person at homes? I've obviously seen the stuff that you do at home. We can see your gym on social media and things, but is most of it online, or is some of it face to face as well?
I do have face to face. I have a mix. I have people that come to my garage gym, and luckily I was online. I took most of my business online in 2013. So I kind of looked out before COVID hit and made everyone go online. So I was already there. So I do online live coaching like this, where I'm coaching the people just as if they were in person. I do a lot of program design where we just do check-ins. That's normally with other coaches or people that have just been with me for a while and I know they move well and safe. And then the people in person. And then outside of that, obviously Strongfirst is my main, like teaching the certs, traveling all over. And then adding in the adaptive training stuff where I can.
Yeah. And how do you find online coaching? I mean, you've been doing it for 10 years now, it sounds like. So you must be fully adapted to that and comfortable with it and an expert. Yeah.
I love it. And I feel like, I mean, like I said, I have people that have been with me for a really long time. So I would say if I could give advice to people that are new, like it seems very appealing, right? Like, oh, I can be anywhere. And it is. Like, I love that I can be anywhere. I can go be teaching. Like, I'm going to leave next week to go to LA, and I'm teaching 2 workshops in LA, and then I'll spend the week in LA, and I'll still be doing all of my online coaching while I'm there. And then I'll take the train and make my way down to San Diego. And then the next weekend I'm teaching a bodyweight cert there. So I won't give up I'll still be working on my hours. I'll still be coaching no matter where I'm at. But what I find with new people, they're like, oh, that's appealing. I could be anywhere coaching. But if they don't have the experience or they haven't really done a lot of in-person coaching, I think sometimes they struggle with online coaching because they don't know the angles they need to move people in, because in person you can walk around, right? Or you should be walking around as a coach, like what's going on with the ankles, what's going on with the knees and the hips and the spine, and are they moving properly? It's not just move to move, right? And load those movements. It's, are they moving well? And if you're not familiar with that and you haven't done it, it's a little bit of adjustment because you have to have the person move. You have to know the angles. You have to know what you're looking for, not just, hey, this person's doing a squat. Okay, but are they squatting safely or whatever? But it's totally doable. And I have also, at times, I mentor people to kind of transition to the online space if that's what they want. But I think that you have to have time in person with people. The more bodies you can see, the better coach you're going to be, to know how to move in a proper, functional movement patterns, and how to do mobility. And if not, I mean, if you're talking online, think about that's going to make you a better coach as well, because you have to get better at cueing, because you have to know the right steps. Like if you're trying to tell someone for the first time, use something like a Turkish get up, and you're doing it over the screen, right? There's no like, let me demo this and let me show you this and okay, move here and go and actually adjust them. You can't do that. So you have to get better at cueing and making people understand through words versus actions. So it's doable, and I love it.
Fantastic. And where are you at now with your training? Because I see you're training. I think I've seen some of you training possibly at the adaptive space that you're at now as well, with your one arm press ups and things like that. Are you kind of where you said about a shoulder injury? Are you kind of back to full health at the moment, or getting there?
Unfortunately, I am not, and it's driving me crazy. So I'm trying to, what you're seeing is me doing assisted one-arm push-ups on the good side. I'm trying to do that to a level to be able to maintain it on one side, but I don't want to build like a huge asymmetry. The day before we were all in lockdown, I was teaching a bodyweight certification, and someone fell on me from a handstand. And I never got it checked out at that time because I flew home and went into quarantine like the rest of the world. So I just let all the bruising go away and the heel, and I thought that it healed. So I never got imaging or anything like that. But what I started finding is that every year I was re-injuring it. Like it just kept happening and I didn't know why. And I would rehab it because I know how to do a lot of the rehab, the general rehab stuff. But it just keeps happening. And each time it happens, it's worse. So like right now, I've been out since December with no press, with no overhead pressing and no push-ups or pull-ups. So my training is not the same. It's frustrating. I'm going through PT, but I think I'm finally going to have to convince the doctor, like PT is not enough. Like I need imaging. I need to know what's deeper, so that it actually gets fully better this time. Yeah. So I'm just trying to kind of keep my body redefining what strong is right now, as strong as possible, and learning to just be humbled a little bit and be like, this is where I'm at. Doesn't mean I can't teach and coach people, but I'm not as strong as I once was. So, but it'll come back. Just got to keep this strong right now.
I think it's interesting. We'll start to wrap up soon, so we've nearly been on for an hour. But I was listening to, we've had Dan John on, I think 5 times or something like that. And I was listening to one of his podcasts the other day, and someone had wrote a question to him, and I think Dan's now, he's about 60, 67 or something, maybe. I think he's kind of, and he was saying that, and it's really interesting that he was saying that someone was a competitive power weightlifter, I think, still in their 50s. And they were asking if they can continue to get stronger from, I think they were 53 onwards. And he was talking about, strength as you age. And he said that sometimes, he said, you just know that you've lifted a weight on the platform and you're never going to lift that weight again, and he said it's hard, to kind of, when you've lived your whole life being very, very physical and being very, very strong. And there's an inevitability that is, we can slow down the decline and we can get stronger in certain things, but eventually, we're not going to keep getting stronger indefinitely. So it's a real, I think that kind of redefining strong as well as it's that Absolutely. That inevitability of aging, which is a bit sounds a bit depressing saying it, but
yeah, it is. I agree with you. Like I feel like, and that's why that redefining is so strong. It's like you got to redefine your mind. You can't live in, we call them the used to coulds. I used to do this, I used to do that. I was really good at this, right? Yeah, I did the Iron Maiden and it was amazing. And I was that strong. And by being that strong, I have to remind myself that I'm still stronger today, even not fully healthy, in my joints like I need to be, I'm still stronger than probably at least 50%, right? If not way more people that are my age. So I'm trying to redefine what that looks like and keep showing people, yes, I may not be as strong as I used to be, but I think there's even a country song. It says, I'm not as strong as I once was, but I'm as strong once as I'll ever be.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I just need to do one arm push-up really good and one but just kind of joke about that. But for real, like it will be different. So how do we keep our mind like strong and okay with the fact that we're not going to always do the things that we used to could? There is going to come a time where we're training smart training. We need to train smart for longevity, not to always be hitting the next PR. It's I want to be strong for life now. I want to be strong to live a comfortable life, keep showing people that you can be strong no matter how old you get. And but that strong is relative. It's relative to so many factors in the world. But it definitely changed. Like my mindset was already changing, but like now seeing these different levels of athletes and adaptations, like it's even stronger. It's like there's so much we can do, and we just got to live have kind of that positive mindset and just know that the sky's the limit. And even if let's say your goal's way up here, that journey to get there, as we say in Strongfirst or the SFB, which you guys might hear this soon, is, it's like there's a star on the horizon and you may not ever reach that star, but that journey to get there or reaching for it is going to take you to higher limits than you've ever gone, like higher strength you've ever had.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's brilliant. That's a good place to start to wrap up, I think, Karen. I really appreciate it. I know your throat today. I really appreciate you coming on with us for an hour. It's been fantastic. If people are introduced to you for the first, that's all right. If people are being introduced to you for the first time today and want to, you've mentioned your social media a few times, follow you, maybe find out about the adaptive athletes that you're working with, and also maybe I know you've got ebooks and online training and things that you do. What's the best way for people to kind of to find you and to see what you do?
The easiest thing would probably be my website, because all of those social media aspects are on there. Or if you go to social media, you can go through my link tree and like everything from Strongfirst. I'm going to be adding a few more things there and modifying that. But the easiest is it's coachkarensmith.com is the website. Instagram, because there's too many Karen Smiths, I had to put Coach Karen. So it's _coach_Karen_. And then from there, like I said, you can find, I'll be posting like everything else. Obviously I post all about Strongfirst and now the adaptive. And I'm not as active on social media right now, unfortunately, with my own training, not because I can't train, but because I'm just busy with these things. And it's like, okay, well, what's got to give? Like, okay, well, recording myself in my training and trying to put that out there is just not the top of the priority right now, even though I love it. It's more about, training other people and doing the certs and the adaptive training stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Excellent. And when are you over in Europe? You said you're going to be in Paris. What month was that again?
July. I'll be teaching the bodyweight certification in Paris on the 14th and 15th of July.
Fantastic. And if you do happen to come to England at all while you're over in Europe, it would we'll have to keep an eye out. It'd be great to catch up with you. That'd be fantastic. But Paris is only a train journey away, so I may join you.
How far is the train?
What is it, 2 hours to Paris from London? I think I've done it.
Something like that.
Yeah, I did the Paris Marathon years ago, and we got the train, the Eurostar. Yeah, so it's fairly quick. Might be able to join you for a croissant or something.
After you're done, like send me like what that train would be, like where I would go, because I haven't really planned that vacation out. And I am vacationing after, and I do want to spend some time kind of moving around because I've already been to Paris, so I want to I'm going to go and teach there and be there for a few days and then kind of see where I'm going next. But I haven't purchased all those tickets yet, so like there's still options.
Yeah, because well, that's the thing. Like you said, you've got the kind of the empty nest thing going on now, but it also gives you a lot of freedom, doesn't it? So you can travel, you can move all over doing your workshops, and you can so there's the flip side to that, I suppose, as well.
Also, you've got Sorry.
What was that, Pete?
No,
Go.
I was going to say you've got the whole of Europe, which is smaller than Texas anyway, isn't it? So it's easy for you to get around.
yeah,
Like
I can
going
just
next
travel
door.
everywhere. Yeah, I
Brilliant.
definitely want to see, while I'm there, there's no point in just going and coming right back. So I'm going to try to see what I can do, maybe 10, 12 days or so.
Yeah.
But then I got to look at the time difference and still coach on my online session. So I figured it all out. It's all doable.
It's about 6 hours, isn't it? I think at the moment, the time difference from where we are for you. So Europe's only going to be an hour or two out of that. Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for joining us. And again, thank you so much for doing that with your sore throat today. It's been an absolute pleasure you've been on my kind of hit list, as it were, to get on the podcast for a long time. And so I'm really glad that we made it happen. And I've been around Strongfirst for a decade or so, and I heard so much about you from so many people. And like you say, met Jason Marshall last year as well, who speaks very, very highly of you, and Rebecca Rouse, who we had on the podcast as well. So no, it's lovely to finally talk with you. It's been lovely.
Thank you so much. I feel honored that you guys asked, and I really appreciate it. It was a great time. And like I said, hopefully when I'm over there, maybe I'll get to meet you guys in person. But I really appreciate it and love sharing, just sharing the passion for all things health and fitness and strong and all that.
Excellent. And we'll definitely, redefining strong. I love that. I love everything about that. That was fantastic. So thank you so much for everybody for listening again. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on a platform that allows you to do so. If you'd like to join the Facebook group, just go into Facebook under groups and search Health Oddity, and one of us will let you in. We are back next week. I think we have Travis and Ted from the Summit Mentality next week coming on. So they're the guys who we spoke about a few weeks back, who did the relay up and down Snowdon in Wales for 24 hours. And now they've gone on to do lots of other endurance events and things like that. So we'll have them on next week. That will be episode 142. So until then, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.